Hello, everybody. It's Jaime Jo Wright here with Madlit Musings. And as usual, I'm super excited for this next author who's been here before, Suzanne Woods Fisher. Welcome.
Hello, and thank you for hosting me today. It's always fun to connect with you and chat.
It is. It is. And you have another book out that actually came out in September. So
Yes.
it has already been out.
Up, but
Ooh, there it is. Lost and Found.
But I love the cover. I love
Yeah.
what they did. It just feels very much like a hint.
Yeah, it does. It does. And not to play off the Amish element of simplicity, but it's also a simple cover design that really catches your eye, I noticed.
I agree. And it's interesting because Amish fiction covers are really designed so that a reader knows they are crossing into another world. So every Amish cover, every publishing house. And I have just been really pushing to get a face off of it because I just feel like let the reader come up with their own face. And so I'm really happy the last couple of books have had, that sounds funny, but I'm speaking to a writer of who understands this, a faceless book.
A faceless book, yes. Yes.
I love it. I love it. You know it's Amish, there's just details, but it's not projecting too much into the reader's mind.
No, and the other thing I noticed is, well, this sounds horrible, but I don't read a lot of Amish fiction personally, but the cover appeals to me more as a non-Amish reader because it doesn't look so Amish, but yet I know it's Amish.
I know what you mean.
It's not making sense at all. But that is kind of cool though, because I've noticed with Amish fiction that it's starting to, or it has been branching off a little bit more from the traditional Amish story that I grew up with. And there's more exploration within that genre, which is really cool. And I know that you like to do a lot of that.
I love issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thinking, I keep laughing because it's so funny, Amish fiction, and then the topics of your books are so fascinating and Halloweenish. And
yes, I know, right? Yeah, I'm not sure our books would ever share book space if it had to do with topic, but it'd be an honor.
We walked into Walmart one day and they were next to each other.
That would be great. I would take a picture and frame that, to be perfectly honest. I think that would be great. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Lost and Found and what it's about and what readers can expect from it.
Well, it actually kind of began a few books ago called A Season on the Wind that was a book about a young man named Micah Weaver, who he was a field guide. He's a crackerjack birder. So he loves raptors. That's his whole thing. And he also has a stutter. So he is one of those guys that does better with birds than with people, but he listens well. So in that book, I had a bird log of Micah's at the end of every chapter. And it was kind of fun because it was a way to use his humor as well as to give a reader some actual knowledge about a bird in a really palatable way, very fun, really enjoyable. And really also there was this young woman named Trudy Yoder. She was a young 13, 14-ish, 15. She loved birds too, loved Micah even more. Trudy has an older sister, Shelley, who Micah was crazy about. Shelley exits the scene in that book, breaks his heart. That's A Season on the Wind. Okay, at the end of that, my editor, I had this idea of like another bird story. My editor said, I think that's enough about birds. Well, that book went 7 months on the ECPA bestseller list. So back she comes and said, I think we could do another bird story. So, I would love to take Trudy and give her a chance to speak. And she now is the one, even though it's not a series really, but they're great companion books. A Lost and Found is really through Trudy's eyes. And we have Trudy's bird log. She loves songbirds. Micah loved raptors like eagles and ravens and hawks and all, but she's crazy about songbirds. She loves symbolism, especially in the Bible, because there's so much of it. And she's also, still just crazy about Micah. Well, in Lost and Found, along comes Micah and Trudy. This is a few years later, are starting to actually have a little bit of, their relationship is kind of heating up from a friendship, just enough. And It's true because she found his journal and read it. So she knows there's something brewing. And right about that point, he starts getting these mysterious cryptic phone calls on the phone machine from Shelley, the sister that went missing.
Oh.
And they're little like snippets of, Micah, I'm in danger. I need your help. She hangs up. And then another one, like, Micah, you've got to come, and then hangs up fast. And it's driving him crazy because he really felt like, look, I'm over her. I'm done. I'm not going to get sucked into Shelley's world. Sure enough, he does. He goes right back into it, sleeps in the phone shanty, waiting for her phone to call.
Oh, no.
He finally starts to realize that if he can use his listening skills, he could probably figure out where she is. And so he listens and listens and listens to these voicemail message. Think back to a message machine in the 90s. That's kind of what they were, where you're on repeat. And he actually figures it out. So that's kind of the story.
That's cool.
He chased to find a very rare bird in Shelley, and poor Trudy is left at home hoping things are going to kind of turn. So I won't spoil it, but it's a really fun story with a great ending.
I love it. I love it. And the copy off your website says, I love the last line, what Micah doesn't know is that what you're looking for isn't always what you find. I like that line.
Whopper of a surprise coming.
Okay, this is cool. Okay, let's talk birds. Why birds? How did that's an interesting slant in and of itself. So where did that come from?
The Amish are huge birders. Like,
really?
That is their top hobby, and they do it in such a respectful way. They do not, even though they might have expensive scopes, do not use calls on their iPhones because they don't necessarily have them, the way an impatient non-Amish person might do to try to, which would confuse the bird. They teach their children. They are out in nature. They see it. They, are surrounded by it. That's what's fun about birds. They're everywhere, every continent. There are 4 flyways across the United States, and those flyways in the sky are really like a highway for migration. And so much of where the Amish live, like especially Ohio area, they get so many migrating birds and so many rare birds. And they, for people who do not use the internet, they have a way of getting messages through, like the Audubon Rare Bird Alert, things like that are remarkable. And so then when the Christmas bird count comes along, a lot of Amish, especially teenagers, are on the bird count and helping. They do circles where they're doing like in a full day during like a 12-day period in when the birds are migrating. They will head out, like in Ohio, the boys will be on their bicycles going, counting birds in this certain circle, and they report that to Audubon. And it's a huge part of being Amish. And they are, during the pandemic, actually, even among regular people like you and me, bird watching became one of the top hobbies in the country. So it's a big deal. It's so really like, it seems like, did you ever see Beverly Hillbillies and Jane Hathaway, who would wear those long knee socks and there's a very cool side to birding.
That's funny. I had no idea that was such a part of Amish culture, though. I had zero idea. And that's kind of like their television entertainment to a degree, really.
I think they're really in tune with nature.
Yeah.
I think they observe it, they notice it. I mean, every Amish house has just tons of these purple mountain purple martin bird houses that look like condominiums, just like little birds are flying in and out of it like an airport. And, those are mosquito eaters. They use a lot of the birds and they count on them. And I think for the most part, especially there's like, for example, an organic dairy farmer in Ohio who is an Amishman, and he will intentionally not, if birds like a bobolink are nesting, he will not leave that field alone until their nest fledge. And I can't say that's true of all Amish, but I have found across the board there's so much delight in birding. And They really, I know, and they're all through the Bible. They are
Hmm.
from, really from Noah to,
Hmm.
whales, that came into the Exodus. There's a lot of symbolism of birds. The raven that fed Elijah, the dove
Yeah.
that Jesus. There's just Jesus speaking about it. He noticed sparrows.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So you have the symbolism with the birds and stuff, and I'm assuming, do you weave that into the story then, the spiritual symbolisms as well?
I have them in Trudy's bird log. So
Okay.
when she comes across a bird that's really unusual, she will mark the symbolism that she knows of it.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, I
people,
did a lot of research and
I bet.
a wide variety of birds that would be common in the
Mhm,
Pennsylvania area as well, because
mhm.
my readers have sharp eyes and I will hear if I've blown
Oh,
it.
yes. Yes. But the wrong bird in the wrong region, and you'll get lots of emails.
Well, and actually, sometimes that does happen during migration. When you have a
Oh,
storm,
interesting.
you'll get a lot of birds knocked off course. And so there's one
Oh,
story of a northern wheatear, and that is this tiny little bird that flies all the way from the Arctic Circle down to the bottom of Africa every
what?
year and then back again.
Oh,
Tiny little bird. And an Amish farmer went out, and this is the thing about the Amish, they're outdoors, they notice. They notice.
mm,
So this gentleman, this Amish farmer, noticed the bird on his wood pile, and then he was noted it on the rare bird alert. And then this is true of birders.
okay.
People then came by, and they would line up far from a distance because the bird was resting there for a couple of days, almost
Sure.
enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
And then this wonderful Amish farmer had a guest book that people could sign their names, that they, and just
What
generous
is
enough to
that?
open up his farm to let people see
See
this
the bird.
unusual, rare sighting of a northern wheatear
Oh my goodness. And the fact that he even noticed it, because they're so small.
that he noticed it
That's,
was unique and different, and
yeah.
then knew that it was.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's so cool. Birds are, I mean, honestly, I've heard of symbolism with birds. The primary one is the cardinal, because that always seems to have so much symbolism with, somebody who's passed away, and then you see a cardinal and it's supposedly them. Um, but I have always loved sparrows
Mhm.
because of the verse in the Bible, God's eyes on the sparrow. But when I was little, and I remember this so clearly, I felt sparrows were like the bullied bird by humans, because nobody appreciated, there was too many sparrows. Like sparrows are kind of like just the castaway bird, because there's so many. If 10 of them disappear, there'll be 20 more that come back. And I was always like, oh, the poor sparrows.
Think of crows like that.
Yes. Yes.
Crows we could do without. Not really. They're
No, they all serve a purpose, but
But no, sparrows are, once you start, and I might have just opened up the door for you, but once you start noticing how a flock talks to each other and how they warn each other of like a crow circling and things like that,
Mhm.
you just start realizing the drama that's unfolding in nature all the time. It's go in your backyard sometime and just sit quietly with a cup of coffee, and you will start to notice things that
Mhm.
you that will open your eyes to a world that is almost invisible because they're so clever at hiding in the trees, and yet the more you know, the more you want to know.
Oh, that's okay. All right, Jamie's got a new hobby.
Oh, this is exciting. Last
Actually,
one,
yeah,
cream.
we were on a vacation just recently out west, and I have a picture. I took a picture of a bird that I noticed that I'd never seen before, and I still don't know what it is. So I have to like Google Lens it now or something. But I was able to take a picture of it, and then I haven't followed up on it yet. But that's like one of the things, like, oh, I've never seen that bird before. It's probably common to the area, but for me from the Midwest, I'm like,
Yeah, but that's
hey,
the fun of it too. That's the fun of
yeah,
travel. Like
yeah.
I live in the West, no cardinals at all.
Oh, really?
And when I see a cardinal when I'm back east, a red one, a
Yeah.
male, I actually fall off my chair.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
I
so
love that.
excited.
I love
And yet,
that.
and they don't migrate. So you see
No.
them in the
Mhm.
winter, but they're so common. My friend looked at me like, "Are you okay?" And I thought, "A red cardinal." But
I know, I love cardinals, and we live in the woods. And so that whole concept of sitting out on the deck with a cup of coffee, I'll do that. And the cardinal's call is so distinct.
Mhm.
And one time this early spring, we had one and it would just sit in the trees. You couldn't see it. So I'm wondering if it was a female, but she would do this really her distinctive call, but it was easy enough to mimic. And one morning I thought, I'm going to try and have a conversation with this bird. And maybe I didn't really, but I believe I did. Right. So I started mimicking, and then she would whistle back, and then I would whistle, and then she would whistle back. And I'm like, oh, I talked to the cardinals this morning.
Yeah, they're probably thinking, oh, there's a cute guy around.
Yeah, right. Or they're like, oh, it's that crazy lady on the porch with her coffee. Let's have fun with her. Oh, fun.
Something
Okay.
I this
So
book I was gonna bring up, and maybe you were just
yes.
about,
No, go for it.
and that is, I also wove into this book
Yeah.
the different parts of the Amish that most people don't know a lot about, because there's just sort of an assumption one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spectrum among the Amish of very progressive, or maybe we would say liberal,
Mm-hmm.
to all the way to the far other side of super conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And I have both of those in this story, as well as
Okay.
my main little village, which is, I would say, is like a centralist of old order Amish, a little
Yeah.
bit in the middle. And it was really fun. The story is about a progressive group called the Beachies, who have moved in and bought up farmland, and also something which is typical among the Amish, they sort of are tempting the youth away. They're not trying to,
Okay.
but a
Mm-hmm.
teenager, and have him notice that another kid who's wearing plain clothes has a iPad at home, or
Oh,
and they can be baptized and remain plain. And so some of the youth are being
interesting.
pulled away, and the Amish, I think, are feeling of Stony Ridge are just feeling squeezed out. And true to the Amish, they pack up and move. That's
Mm,
historically what they do. They don't have an
really?
open conflict.
Okay.
What they did from Europe. They
Yeah.
kept chased across Europe, and then they finally came to the New World to buy land, which they couldn't do in Europe. And so that's why they keep moving to different corners as well, why they're
Okay.
up in Maine and heading into Montana and
Yeah.
Colorado, that kind of thing. They just come up and go. And so that's what they're considering. And that's how Micah starts out on his search for Shelley, because
Okay.
he sort of steers the bishop in a direction toward a very isolated area of Tennessee where, and this is true, where
Mm-hmm.
the Spartan troopers, a very conservative group,
Okay.
are living. So my husband and I traveled through there, in
Fun.
really fascinating to see the differences of a very isolated communities of the old order Amish. And
Mm-hmm.
we're talking, Jamie, we're talking, flowers in front of the house, which is not typical of Lancaster. Lancaster gardens are just like their quilts. They're absolutely stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Homes that were tidy, but not necessarily freshly painted.
Okay.
Very plain clothing, nothing adorned at all. They don't interact with having shops in town like you might find in Indiana, Pennsylvania, but they will have little kind of humble farm stands on their homes that
Okay.
you can buy jams and jellies or
Sure.
produce. But here's something on the other side of that. The doors of their home were this charming color of blue. And no one knows why. It's just tradition, but a white house with a lovely blue door. And that was home after home after home. And then something my husband noticed that I thought was just a picture of life. Their homes obviously had very little, no toys outside, no things, no, just stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You turn the corner and go into where the non-Amish live, and their
Okay.
yards were just junk. It was
Oh.
old tractors and trucks and
Mm-hmm.
busted out wheelbarrows. And
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. Just
Ah,
to comment on two different cultures living side by side.
right.
So
Right. That's so fascinating. There's so much we can learn from the Amish too. And I think we've talked about it before, but just that simplicity and bringing that, I almost think of that as symbolic of even our faith. Like you can have a simple faith like a child, like the Lord says, come on to me like a child. And that's really simplicity. And then we complicate it so much. And then we have all this garbage hanging around us. And we are like, well, we can't go anywhere until the garbage is cleared. So therefore we don't go anywhere near the Lord or in our faith. And
We're just so distracted
yeah,
all from that, like you were saying, that simple faith, not a childish faith, but a
no,
child faith.
right, right. Yeah. Well, I look at my nieces when they were little, and then the big uncles that are right there, and I look at them. Well, it's like even my daughter, right? When she was little, she would just race up to her uncles and fully expect to be thrown in the air. Or I have some pictures of her, as she's a year and a half and she's napping and her uncle's napping, right? And now she's older and the approach is way more cautious.
Hmm.
There's like something as you get older, it's the same uncle. He's never changed, still loves you, but there's this awareness of whatever it is, that you no longer run with this abandonment and this just faith that, oh, the uncle's going to love me. It's just kind of like, hello, more cautious. And I kind of look at faith like that sometimes too. As we get older in our faith, we just get more cautious to go before the Lord. And maybe it's because we understand more about who he is and his kingship and his lordship. And that creates more of a caution, which can be healthy. But there's sometimes I just want to run up to God and say, pick me up. Just pick me up, please.
I love that. I think that's a beautiful parallel. I love that. That's a really great picture of your daughter's at a self-conscious age, more
Yeah.
aware, more,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to my age where he's going to be turning 80, and, he comes down and visits, and now I'm back to that childish abandonment of, oh, my uncle's here. And, you just throw yourself in his arms. So it's, we go through stages, and I think our faith does too. But I don't know. I got off on a rabbit trail there with that, but it had to do with simplicity of houses and complications.
And actually, what I like is that you took it to a place that I appreciate about when we talk about the older Amish, which is beyond the bonnets and buggies and beards.
Yeah.
I really appreciate they're not perfect people. We're
Right.
not meant to be Amish. There are very few converts to the Amish, very, very few.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told you before, it's the fastest growing population in North America.
Yeah.
It's from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I feel as if what we can learn from them has to do with that, how their faith is rested on, and how they hold true to their principles and their, despite the distractions of a modern world that are right around them. So
distractions and pulls, and there's something comforting to that, especially in today's culture, I think, where it's, who would have thought like rules and traditions would be comforting, but there's an expectation, like what to expect from it, versus the constant surprise of having no boundaries.
It's kind of why I like Southwest Airlines, because what
Yes.
you know what you're getting.
Yeah. And this podcast has been sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Not really, but we know what Suzanne Woods Fisher flies now.
No kidding. It goes to some of the more unusual parts of the country, which is where I seem to always go.
Hey, those are the best parts. Oh, well, this has been so much fun, but we should probably wrap it up. And readers, I'm assuming, like we've chatted before, can find you at your website. Is there anything else they should know about that you wanted to share?
Well, okay, a couple quick things. One, on my website, SuzanneWoodsFisher.com, there is a pop-up for a newsletter. If just consider yourself invited to subscribe, because that's where I really share a lot of good things with my readers. I take really good care of that, of my travel. And so the first of everything will come through there, and I do a lot of giveaways and contests, and easy to unsubscribe if you're getting too many, but consider it an invitation. And then second, I do have to tell you that the third book in the ice cream series is coming out in the spring. Love on a Whim.
Yes.
Really great wrap up to a series.
Yes.
I love it. And a lot of food in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, called Love on a Whim. And I'm just now getting the cover released to be able to share, and all great cover. I feel like when I have a new book coming out, I want to give it its due and not too much with what's coming next.
Yeah.
I want to get there soon because the cover's that charming and that
Mhm.
beautiful.
Oh, that's exciting. And the exciting part is then you can go to bakerbookhouse.com and pre-order it and get
Yes,
40% off and free shipping. So that's
best deal in town.
it
Yeah.
is. It really is. And then they hand wrap everything. It's just the best package to get in the mail.
They release before release date.
They do.
It
They
is
do.
always aim, go there, just like Southwest, go.
Yes.
go over.
Exactly. So fly Southwest, buy books at Baker Bookhouse, and be sure to pre-order Suzanne's new book coming out in the spring. And I'm sure you'll be back to join us. And we'll
Yes,
talk food next time instead of birds.
thank you.
Well, thanks so much for being here, Suzanne. It's always a blast.
Too.